Today we are getting ourselves into the huge and beautiful game from Chip Theory Games called Hoplomachus Victorum. If I pronounce that correct, well, I'm not sure, but at least I try, right? But this game is a complete solo game. I mean, you could of course sit down with a friend and try to play it together, but it's made as a complete solo experience, and I just love that fact so much. In this video, I am going to show you what this game is about. We're going to go through the different phases and see what you will do in the game of Hoplomachus. So sit down and let's just take a look at this beautiful, beautiful game. So this here is what the setup will look like. You have the big playmat at the bottom, you have an arena mat on top of that, you have a bunch of tokens facing the mat, you have your own tokens, you have life tokens, and you have a little notepad here where you have written in your hero's abilities. At the very beginning of your journey, you need to choose a faction that you would like to belong to, and take the corresponding hero. If this is your first game, it is recommended that you choose Kraken Lance, as he is the most easiest and less complex hero. Now, these sheets here also come with a bunch of information. You will see which arena belongs to this faction. You will see some rules that happens on this arena when you fight here, because all of these have their own specific rules. And you will also see which opponents the enemies will focus on this arena. Once you know which hero you portray as, you need to take this little golden token here and put it out on that hero's home arena. Once you have selected your hero, you place him in your camp. And this here is your hero's camp. This is where you and your future fellow companions will rest. Now, each hero also have these cards. These cards are like special abilities, and at the start of the game you start with 3 cards. If you are playing as Kraken Lance, it is recommended that you start with Follow My Lead, Master Tactician, and Grand Entrance. It is important to notice that when you play with a hero, the stats should be facing down, and you should be seeing the portrait, as the stats on the token will not matter when you are controlling this hero. Beneath your hero's token, you should fill up with HP tokens, as many as your hero starts with from the start of the game, meaning these ones here. We would then need to fill out information in your hero's tracking pad, and this is where you, well, keep a track of your hero's stats and how the acts are going. Up here you will write in what hero you have chosen. Down here you write in what your hero's movement points are, what their range are. You will circle in what class they have. You will cross out how many HP they have, meaning how many of these tokens that are beneath your character's token. Every time you gain a health point, you will again cross in a new heart. Down here you have leadership. Now, you cross out the amount of leadership your hero starts with, and the leadership will determine how many more companions you can bring to the party out on the arena. Down here we have blessings. Again, you will start with a certain amount of blessings. Now, these are important because when your hero dies, meaning when they completely drain out on HP, you can spend one of these blessings to bring him or her back to life. But once you have used them all, well, you are dead, my friend. Your hero will also start with a certain amount of die. Each of these 4 die here represents 1 die, and the above represents the upgrade of that die. You will start with a certain die and cross that out. When you upgrade that die, you will cross out the die above, and now you will be using that die instead. This is the way it goes up, all the way up to the black die, which is the maximum upgrade. And you can at any time have a maximum of 4 die. This here is the 4 different acts of this game. Each act consists of 12 weeks. In the game, not in real life. So once you have pretty much traveled or battled at the arena, you will cross one of these out. until you are all the way up here. Once you get up here, you will have to meet a Primus. A Primus being kind of like a boss. And you will do this 3 times, until you come to Act 4. Then you would again go through the weeks. But instead of meeting a Primus at the end of this act, you would instead face a Scion, the absolute most brutal boss in this game. And hopefully you manage to defeat that one and defeat the game. Down here we have Scion Influence. Now this is a track of spaces that represents the Scions, meaning the boss up here, opportunities to affect you. Each time a Scion's influence is gained, you cross out one of these little circles here. If the crossed out circle contains one of these symbols, meaning a Bane, you would add a Bane to the drawbag. And they are not good news, because there are usually something really ugly at the backside of these that you would need to go through. And your hero won't start their journey alone. No, they will bring some neutral units, meaning the ones with this backside, along with them on their journey. If you are playing as Krakenlands, it is recommended that you take an attacker, archer, and a defender. But you can of course choose as you want to. The rest of the neutral units that you did not use are put into the drawbag. Now this will be the future enemies that you will face out on the arena. Next we got this neat little stadium here. In the front row we have the different factions, and in the middle we have opportunity tokens. Here we have the 3 different Primuses that you will meet during Act 1, 2 and 3, and at the end the Scion that you have chosen. Here we have the sports cards, the opportunity cards and the blood shred cards. And then we would of course also need to choose one Scion that we would like to meet at the end of our acts. If this is your first game, the one that is called Tauti, again, pronunciations, I don't know, but this big mean beast here is recommended to start with. This one also got some little rules here, but they will only take action once you actually meet this beast on an arena. And like I told you, this game goes on during 4 acts. And during each of these acts, you have 12 weeks. During these 12 weeks, you will travel along this country. You will go out to different arenas and you will battle enemies. But also different prions, remember? The mini bosses, so to say. And during these 12 weeks, well, that's the amount of time you have before you need to go to one of the different arenas out on these countries and face either a Primus or the big Scions at the end of the game. And if you manage to go through all of the 4 acts, beat up all the Primuses and eventually beat up the Scion, well then you would get to read the epilogue in the Scion epilogue book. And there are quite a few of those. And then you have managed to beat the game. If you don't manage to do any of that, and you eventually end up dead along the way, meaning that your hero have used all of his HP and you have no blessings left, you have lost the game, my friend, and you will need to do it all again. So the story in this game is that a big ass volcano was about to erupt and pretty much kill everyone on Earth. But a goddess named Proserpina, again, pronunciation is not my strongest side, but that goddess came in and she showed her merciful side, protecting all life, calming things down, making sure that everything was well. But the lord of the underworld, Pluto, did not like this because, well, he didn't get the sacrifices that he wanted. So now he is mad and he wants to kill everybody. He wants to go Anakin on the world. But we still have a chance to save this, because we can send out our little heroes here to prove that we are mighty. Meaning that we need to go out to these different lands, fight different enemies as first, go up in level and fight the different Primuses, go another step and fight the Scions, until we eventually will fight Pluto himself, and hopefully manage to shut his mouth. Now the game itself is played out during 3 different phases, and the first one is the travel phase. During the travel phase, we will move our little encampment here meaning this little token, one step out on this map. And if we take a look at this map, we can see that there are some paths. This is the path where we will move our little token, one step. Now we can choose to go in different directions if we want to, but we can only move one step and we can never move backwards the same way as we came. And if we look at these different spots out here on the board, we can see that they have different colors. This one here is an arena. Now the arenas have different artworks depending on which country you are in. The blue ones here, those represent sports events. The red ones here meaning bloodshed events. And the green ones are opportunities. Besides these locations out on the land itself, there are also harbors. Now you can move through a harbor without using it and simply ignoring it. But if you use a harbor, you can use it to pop out on another harbor anywhere out on the map. But if you do this, you will need to cross out 1 week on the act that you're currently in. So this will get you there faster, but it will also shorten down the amount of weeks that you have. So that's the way you travel. It's quite easy, right? You simply move your little token here one step. You can't go backwards, you can only go forward. If you use a harbor, meaning that you travel long distances, well, you travel 1 extra week. Just note that if you enter any of the capitals, meaning the arenas, well, you will end the current act that you are in. So even if you have only traveled 4 weeks, if you enter a capital, that act is over and you need to face a Primus or Scion or whatever it is that you have coming. So be sure that once you enter these capitals, you are ready for the fight. Once we have done the travel phase, we go into phase number 2. This is the event phase, and this is where we need to carry out whatever we have set out to do. Here you actually have 4 options. We have the 3 different events on the map, the sporting, opportunity and bloodshed event. But you could actually choose to spectate, meaning that you simply sit down and watch the games instead of participating. Now, you might want to do this if you have low HP on your hero and you simply don't want to risk that poor bastard's life. But if you choose to do this, you need to go through some steps. First, you would need to discard the top event card from whatever event you are facing. Then you would need to draw 3 new event cards from that same deck. Now you can rearrange them in any way you would like to, and then put them back in the same deck. Next, you would need to cross out 1 of the Scion's influences, the next in line, meaning that if you have not crossed out anyone yet, well then you need to start now. Putting a cross here, and then simply building up the track of Scion influences for every time you choose to spectate. But you would get to fully heal your hero. And remember that if you cross out any of the skulls on the Scion's influence, well, you would need to add a Bane token into the bag. But once you have gone through this, well, your week is done, meaning that that turn is done. You do not need to cross out another week, you don't need to do anything else, you simply take a little token here and then you go out on a new little travel phase. But if you don't choose to spectate, well then you need to take on one of the 3 events that you have chosen on the map. Let's start by looking at opportunities, meaning these green cards here. Now, when you step on one of the green ones out on the map, you need to draw 2 opportunity cards. Read them and then choose one. The other one goes to the back of the pile. This opportunity is placed in your camp. Now this here is kind of like a future goal. Up here you have a text stating what you need to accomplish. Once you have accomplished that, well, you will get whatever reward is stated in this yellow field here. And you can actually choose to upgrade this at any time, even at the middle of combat. But only if you want to. Once you have placed the card in your camp, well, that phase is over and you would move into the travel phase again and start a new round. It's that simple. Now remember these cards because you need to keep a track on if you reach the goals or not. It can be a bit hard sometimes. I have forgotten these cards unfortunately and missed opportunities, so be aware of the cards. Now that was the opportunity step. The next two ones are the sporting events or the blood shred events. Now, let's start by looking at the sporting events. So if we end up on a blue space out on the map, we would draw the top card from the sporting event deck. And then we place the card on its designated area out on the game mat, looking like this. Now, on this card we see a bunch of symbols. At the top we see the name of this event. Here we see what type of event it is, and below it we have 3 more symbols. These are the different games available during a sporting event. We have Capturing the Flag, King of the Hill, and Spar. To the left we can see what enemies we are facing. First we have a local enemy, meaning the first chip that is in the row of that faction. After that we have 2 more symbols. These are the enemies that we will draw from the draw bag. And if we see next to these little symbols here, we can see a T. That means that the local and one of the enemies from the drawback needs to have a tactic token, corresponding to whatever type of enemy we are facing. On the right side we can see what we can deploy. We can deploy 1 hero and 3 of our companions, if we have any. Now in the center here we can see a little rule of this game. In this case here, this event cannot be surrendered, meaning that you will need to fight to the end. And you would need to choose one of the events that are available up here. The local unit corresponding to whatever region you are in are placed wherever the card tells you to place it. And the tactic tokens corresponding to that unit are placed to the left in that designated area. The rest of the units that you drew from the bag and there, if any tactic tokens, are then placed beneath, just as the card shows you. Your units and yourself are still placed in the camp for now, until you choose to deploy them. And then we should of course also put out the arena mat corresponding to the region we are in on the game mat itself. Now remember that some of these arenas have their own specific rules, so you would need to read up on the card before you get into the action itself. This one here, for example, will have you put out a triad at the center of the game mat, meaning on this stone right here. Now in this specific arena, whoever has this can throw it on an enemy, do damage, but then this one would actually be stuck on that enemy, and now they would be able to pull it out of themselves and throw it right back at you. Now, as I said, these sporting events can have different games, and you can choose. If there's only one sporting event on the card, well then you can choose, of course. But if there are several different events, well then you can choose. During a Capture the Flag event, you place the flag in number 1 of the enemy's deployment hexes. Now, they can deploy here, they can enter and they can go out. You can also go here to get it and try to get it back to your deployment hex. Now, depending on which map you have, it will of course be in different spaces. But now your goal is to pick up this flag and bring it back to your deployment area to gain points. King of the Hill works kind of the same way, except now you're not bringing anything back. Now you're simply going to the specific spot on the board itself, and then you need to stand there. If you manage to stand there 1 round, you will get points. If you play the last one, meaning a sparring event, well, you will go in for a friendly little game of beating the hell out of each other, and you need to defeat all of your opponent's enemies except the one that has. The Tribune is one of your rival's most respected heroes. And to determine who becomes the Tribune in a sporting event, well, it depends on what game you are playing. If you're playing King of the Hill, you can choose freely. If you are in a sparring event, you need to pick the top rival in their line that you have just set up. And then you simply place that token beneath that character's picture and put it back in the row. Now they are ready for deployment. But what does that mean? Well, this means that in some events, well, you need to keep them alive to be able to win. In other events, it means that if you kill them, well, your hero will actually reduce their life down to only 1 health point, even if they're not even in the combat. You would keep a track on score by simply using the number dice and twisting them one little step here when you get a point. Now, some of these arenas will have the symbol of King of the Hill here, for example, printed on the mat itself, while others, like this one here, will have it printed on the token corresponding to that arena. To be able to pick up anything here from the mat itself is quite simply. You simply take your little hero and you move to that spot, and then you put that token underneath your hero's little picture here. And then you can simply move and bring the flag with you back to your deployment area. But this here is the sporting events. Like I told you, there are 3 of them. Depending on which one you choose, the setup will of course be different. Depending on whatever the arena sheet said here, the arena setup will also differ. Now, when it comes to these mean ones here, the red one, the bloodshed, well, the setup would be the same as we did with the enemies and with our own troops. But there would of course not be a sporting event, because these ones here are simply meant for you to go in and try to slay your opponent. But the bloodshed event itself might have a specific rule in the center of the card. Here, for example, you can see that you can deploy only one non-elite unit this combat, and that unit has plus 10 health, because here you can see you can only do your hero. Now again, the arena itself might still have specific rules that you would need to follow. Before we look at the actions, let's look at the tokens to see what all of these symbols means. Well, here you have a picture of whatever rival you are facing. Looking cool, looking mean. Down here we have what class they are. And there are 4 different classes in this game. All of these classes will correspond to a tactic token, meaning that this unit here will use this tactic, as they have the same class. While this one down here, the defender, would use this tactic here, as they have the same class. Here we see a name, but it's only the locals ones, meaning the ones that actually belong to a faction, that have a name. The other ones, the neutral, will simply be defenders or tacticals or whatever. Up here we see the amount of movement points that this rival unit has. In this case 3. This one down here only have 1. This here, the orange field, means how far they can reach. In this case, both of them can only reach 1 space out on the arena. And here we have the health point of each of these rivals. That means how much health chips that they will have beneath their chip. Then we also have a die. This represents the die that the different units will roll against you when they are attacking out on the arena. And depending on which die they are rolling, they will of course have more or less chance to hit you. And beneath that we have special abilities. Now depending on what abilities they have, they will of course mean different things. And there are a lot of special abilities in this game. But don't you fear, the unit skill sheet is here. On this sheet you can see all of the skills, what type it is, but also the rules for that skill. Now, once we have everything set up according to whatever games we are playing and whatever arena we are in, we are actually ready to start playing the game. And depending on which event you are playing, well, you will of course have different tactics. But whatever you can do and the steps are the same for a sporting event, but also a bloodshed events. And the rivals will always start their turn first. And the first thing you do during your turn is to deploy. So we would start by deploying enemies' units. And when we deploy from the top to the bottom. And we would need to deploy them out on their deployment areas on the arena itself. As we can see, there are numbers going from 1, 2, and 3. And this is the order in which we should deploy the enemy's units. Now, when they are deployed, they are dazed, meaning that they will actually don't do anything, meaning that they simply will enter the arena and then do nothing, unless they have an ability allowing them to go right away. Before you deploy your enemy's units, make sure that they have the right amount of health. Now, when they are deployed, as I said, they are dazed, meaning that they can't really do anything from the start, unless they have a skill saying otherwise. And if there are no more enemies out on the arena, well, it will be your turn now. And you would deploy any of your units. But you don't need to deploy them in a specific order. You could deploy your hero first and then go with the other units later, or go with the other units first and so on. As long as you deploy them on the deployment spaces, well, you can pretty much choose freely. But if the enemy would have had any more units out on the board that would be active, they would finish their turn before you get to do your turn. The second step is tactic placement, meaning these ones here. Now, if it is the enemy's turn, they would, if they can, use any tactics now. Some of these tactics, well, you will need to be within range to be able to use them. So if they cannot use them, they will not use them. But if they can, they will. You, however, can of course choose to use your tactics whenever you feel like the opportunity is right. Like this one here, for example, a tactic. As you can see here, it is permanent, meaning that this one will last throughout the whole battle. And it says that this unit cannot attack on a turn it uses its movement. But you would of course need to be within range to be able to use this tactic on an opponent. In this case here, well, our rival would need to be in range to be able to put this on our hero. And now, throughout this whole battle, this tactic will be active. The third step during a battle is movement. Here we would need to take a look at our rival's movement values, or on our sheet, meaning this one here, to see what movement our hero has, if it would be our turn. Now, to move in this game is really simple. Whatever character's turn it is simply moves the amount of step that they can or want to do. You can of course choose yourself, if you want to move, if you want to stand still, or whatever you want to. But the enemies will move according to whatever the arena card says at the bottom. So here it would go for the flag holder first, then the opponent with the trident, and the farthest opponent at the last. But they will always try to attack you. So if they are within range and they can attack you, well, they will not move. So the enemies will move in a certain way, depending on what this arena says. They will always try to hit the hero or any other opponents that they have within reach instead of moving. But you, however, on your turn, can of course move freely any way you would like to, as long as you are within the amount of steps you can move. The fifth step is where we, or the enemy, gets to use their skills, meaning the ones down here. Again, they will use them if they can, or if there is any use of using them, but also if they are within range. And some of these skills will actually activate earlier or later as well. But now they have an opportunity to use them. And so do you, if it is your turn and you have any skills to use, that is. The sixth and final step would be engage. And this is where you, if it's your turn, or the enemy, if it's their turn, would engage and attack an enemy that they have within reach. If it is the enemy's turn, well, they will roll the die stated on their chip. If it is your companion's turn, well, they would also go according to whatever die they have. You, however, need to check your little sheet here to see which die you have available. In this case here, Krakenlance can roll 3 of the green die, as he have upgraded all of these die up to the green. Once we know what to roll and whose turn it is, so we know who is going to attack, we need to roll that die. And whenever we get a sword, that means that we will be able to hit our opponent, or the opponents get to hit us. Now, again, we might have a skill to protect us, but so does the enemies. So we need to keep a track on what skills we and the enemy has. When the rival units loses all of their health points, well, they are put on this track again, face down. And when one of your units loses all of their HP, they are put in the camp face down. But if your hero, however, loses all of their HP, well, they are considered to be defeated. And you will lose the game now, if you cannot use one of your blessings. Because you have your blessings that can save you, remember? In that case, you would simply cross off one of your blessings, get all of your HP back, and be ready for another fight. So, just to break this down. First, our rivals, meaning our opponents, gets to do their turn to the fullest. Meaning that if they have 3 active rivals out on the board, well, all of those 3 would go through those 6 steps I just told you. And then it would be your turn. You would go through the same 6 steps with all of your active characters out on the arena. Once you are finished, well, we will go back to the rivals again. They would again go through the same 6 steps. And this is the way the battle will go back and forward. And like I told you before, depending on what kind of object, sport, or whatever you are trying to complete here, the game will of course end in different ways. If it is a King of the Hill event, well, you might need to get a certain amount of points to be able to win the game. If it is a bloodshed event, well, then you simply just go out and slay everything in your way. And so on. And this is the way we would battle until we simply win or lose. Once the battle is done, we would go into a little cleanup phase. Now, if we have lost the event, well, we would need to cross out another Scion mark on our little sheet here. Because now the enemy is gaining more reputation. They have more fear, and they will put fear into you and maybe Bane tokens into the bag, remember? If we did win, however, well, we have some different rewards, depending on which game we played. If this was a sporting event, we would be able to gain 1 tactic, or gain one of the rivals that we have just fought into our camp and bring them in with us on our journey. But if this was a bloodshed event, we have different choices. Here we can choose to add another die to our hero, meaning that we cross out 1 more die in this row, or we can choose to upgrade a die that we already have, meaning that we simply cross out a die above the ones we already have access to. Or we could choose to get more health and leadership. Again, by just crossing out the hearts or the leadership symbols. Either way, we are building up our character here, making him stronger and stronger for whatever he is facing in the future. Any tactic tokens that have been used goes back to the supply. The units that you have faced goes back into the bag. Meaning that as the game goes on, you will get more and more rivals. And if you fail, well, remember that you would also get Bane tokens eventually. Any of your units that have been defeated, well, they go away. But the rest of them that are still alive will go back to your camp. And so will your hero. But you will now only have the HP left for future battles that you have after this battle. Meaning that if you only have 2 HP left, well then that is now your hero's new HP. And once you have done the cleanup phase, well, you simply go back to the travel phase. You travel around the country here again, you will do new sporting events, you will do new opportunities, and so on. And this is the way the game goes on. Until you need to enter one of the capitals to go into the arena and meet either the Primuses or one of the Scions. Now, the Primuses here, you can actually choose which one of the 3 you want to face first. You don't have to go by order the way you're standing here on the little podium. No, you can battle them in any way you want to. And they do not follow the normal card setups here. Their setup can be seen in the rulebook. And now you follow the same steps again, but you follow whatever the rulebook says. When it comes to the Scion, however, when you have fought the 3 Primuses, you need to fight the Scion, remember? Once you hit that one, well, the rules are a little bit different, because now you need to look at that Scion's specific card instead. Now down here we will have some setup description, meaning how we set up this Scion. Here we will have your units, meaning that this is how many units you can have out on the arena at the same time. Up here we will have the die that this Scion will use during their battle. Down here we will have their triggers and their effects, depending on what die they roll. And here we have their priority. This one here, for example, will go towards the strongest opponent. Lastly, we have whatever special bane that this scion is using. In this case here, it is using the gigantic bane. Lastly, we have the health of this scion, but also the range of it. Now, the scions are the ones that are deployed first during the rival deployment step, but they will actually enter the game dazed as well. When they roll their die, they will roll all of these die here, which is quite a lot. Once we have the result, we would need to go through these little steps here to see what the scion actually will do. When you fight one of the Primuses or the Scion, well, that game is a lethal game and you cannot surrender. So you need to make sure that you are ready for whatever is coming here before you just jump into that battle. If you manage to slay this Scion, well then you win the game. And you are a glorious winner that have saved our world. Plus, you also get to read the Scion epilogue here, because each of these have a little ending here. But I will let you figure that out all by yourself. And that, my friend, is the basic rules of Hoplomachus Victorium. Because what I have shown you here is what you need to know to get to start playing the game. How to set it up, what the different phases are, how the characters works. Now, it might seem like a lot, but it's actually not that hard. Once you get into it, well, you start to realize that it's just common sense most of the time. And like I told you, what I have shown you here is really what you need to know to get to start playing the game. There are more rules, especially when it comes to the skills here, because there are a lot of different skills. But you don't need to have all of this in your head. You will have this sheet next to you and you will need to look at it quite a few times. Plus, as you keep on playing the game, you will realize that there are a bunch of rules on the different arenas also that you just need to look up before you start playing that battle. But the game itself, the base, is actually not that hard. And the setup might look brutal, but it's actually not. It's quite fast because you only put the chips in here once, and then they're all sorted out for you to just take out of the box. The same thing with this little showcase here. All of these tokens are put in here when you start playing the game from the beginning, but then you can keep them here. You don't need to remove them every time. You can simply take this here, put on this neat little lid here on it. You need to remove the cards, of course, but other than that, well, it's just to put it in and out of the box. Same thing with the player mats here. It takes no time to set up at all. The different setups between the different arenas does not take that long time either. I love the fact that this is a pure solo game. It is made for you to sit down by yourself and playing. You have the whole area here in front of you, everything is directed against you, and it's just perfect. It works smoothly, it's easy to attack, it's easy to move, it's easy for you to reach everything you need to reach. You can sense that they have really put in a lot of thought to make this as solo friendly as possible. So what about the game, right? Well, I do like the gameplay a lot. It's easy, it flows neat, there's a lot of things you can do, there's a lot of things to build up your heroes, there are a lot of scions to meet, primuses, and so on. Now, does the game become repetitive? Yes. Yes, it does. I mean, you do deploy your enemies, you do fight your enemies, you go back and forward, you do the different events, and it's pretty much the same thing going over and over again. You do have a lot of different sporting events, of course, capturing the flag, King of the Hill, and so on, but it's still the same kind of game flow. Now, does it get boring? No. No, it does not. Because every time you enter a new arena, even though you're kind of doing the same thing, it still feels like you are in a new place. You are facing new enemies. You have different objectives. The layout of the maps are different. Some of them are elevated, some of them are in water, and there are a lot of different key features in the different maps as well. So even though the base of the game is repetitive, well, the different arenas, the different rules, the different games that you play will not let this game become boring. There, my friend, you have it, Hoplomachus Victorum. What a beautifully well-made game. I am so impressed. I mean, the quality in this game is so, you can't get better than this. The chips, the cards, I mean, everything is like waterproof. It's almost like it's laminated, but it's not. I can't even see a reason why I would sleeve these cards, because they're just so perfectly made. Also, the box here with the artwork, you have a map in the back piece here. You have the big neon mats, all of these different arenas here. Comes in neon matte. It's just so brilliantly made. But also the gameplay, I mean, like I told you, you go back and forward, that was the game is about, but it never gets boring. You are competing, you are fighting, you're going back and forward, you use your skills, you get different little companion unions here that you can use. I am a big fan of this game. I really, really like it. If you want to know more about the game, well, check out the link here underneath my table. No, I mean in the description underneath the video. If you like what I'm doing, throw in a thumbs up, share the video to your mom. Maybe she appreciates it. You never know, right? But most importantly, my friend, please remember to keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace out, my friend.